been thinking lately about our discussions that we've been having. And it reminded me of a time when I was a Jehovah's Witness. I was in my 30s and I got involved. I was an entrepreneur, so I got involved in research and development, and I stayed in that for 12 years. And we worked on um, taking technology, a wireless pull cord or a hardwired pull cord in a nursing home, to a wireless one. And that's what we did. And we were successful. So when we look at innovation, we think of many people in history going outside of the box. If we didn't go outside of the box, we'd still be riding horse and buggy. But yet man keeps going outside of the box. I know since I came around, I was in 18, there was no cell phone, there was no internet, nothing like that, no computers. And in 1975, the microchip came out, and then a few years later, I actually got involved in technology, and then I went from there. So I've always worked with numbers, troubleshooting, and working outside of the box when it comes to research and development. And I want to talk a little bit about that. That's what we've been doing. I didn't realize it, but unconsciously, I was using the same information that I learned years ago to in these videos, going outside of the box. So how do you explain thinking outside of the box? Thinking outside of the box simply means that you're willing to consider different solutions and methods for reaching your desired outcome. So when we consider our desired outcome in life, if life never quits, and science has proven to us that life energy just changes state. So when we die, there's a part of us, our energy, that transitions, that goes somewhere. And this is the unknown. And science today is proving that that is in fact true. And we've been looking a little bit outside of the box at that. So this is interesting how we can apply this thinking to our spirituality. Is coming out of the box necessary to our life? Well, thinking outside of the box gives you an edge over everyone else because you are simply a problem solver. You are looking for voids in this world, approaching things in innovative ways to find variables to it through your creativity. Thinking outside of the box starts with you and your creativity. So that's what thinking outside of the box is. It's about us. And if we want to go outside of the box, we can see what's out there, but it's scary. We used to do what it talks about next here. This is a good example of thinking outside of the box. Scheduling walking meetings rather than sitting around a table is a good example of how corporations start thinking outside of the box. And these are group discussions. So it talks about how some companies are using this thought of thinking outside of the box. So as an XJW, when I think about being, many years ago when I was a JW, we're in this box, and the box is designed by the organization. And the organization designs this comfort zone for us, and we're inside this box and we feel comfortable. And we come to believe that if we go outside of the box, there's evilness, there's all kinds of bad things. And every once in a while we poke our heads out and we look, and we see a bunch of other boxes out there, and we poke our heads back in. And we don't want to look at them, because the organization told us that, yeah, there's lots of boxes out there, boxes of spirituality, but they're all evil, all evil. Only this box is the right box. And even within the Christian religions, that's where we come from as an XJW, is we're a small sect, a small cult in the Christian religious organizations. And we'd stick our head outside of the box and look around, and we see all these other Christian groups. We'd put our head back in because they're all evil. And if we dared to even look up higher, we'd see all these other religious groups all over the earth, all those many boxes, and they also have their own little sects and groups. And because why? A lot of times it's because we don't like what's said. And I want to go next to this topic. We don't like some of these dimensions, perhaps. Researching Russell is interesting because Russell didn't like Hellfire doctrine. And so I went all the way back to the 1550s, and there's a Unitarian religion or a Unitarian branch of religion, and that's during the Reformation when there was a change and Protestant groups reformed back in the 1500s. So this group, they became called the Unitarian group, and they did not believe in hellfire either. And a lot of the Presbyterian and different groups came from that later on. And Russell, his parents were Presbyterian. So Russell had all these earlier beliefs. He had this knowledge already there. They didn't believe in hellfire, the Unitarian groups, and that goes back to the 1550s. That was not new with Russell. And that was a little bit of an eye-opener for me. So then Russell took these ideas and wanted to form his own little religion, his own little cult. And that was a little branch off the Unitarian. And that was in the 1800s when there was the Second Awakening. And everyone thought Christ was coming, and there was a revivals. And we talked about this in some of our earlier videos. So then Russell comes and he grabs onto this hellfire because during the Second Reformation, they were using hellfire and they were talking about hellfire and they were using hellfire to scare people into joining their group. Hellfire is a powerful tool if you can use it properly, but Russell wanted to be different. He wanted to offer a cruise ship experience. There's no more hell. And so I want to delve into this a little deeper. And so we're going to talk about dimensions. Now, at the time of the Second Awakening, when Russell started the movement, there was no science talking about what they know today. Today, they're actually working on taking this cup and breaking down the particles and transmitting it over there. That's the science today, if we follow it. Now, Einstein, back in 1905, Albert Einstein showed his special theory of relativity, that space is intimately connected to time via the cosmic speed limit of light. And so, strictly speaking, we live in a universe with 4 dimensions of space-time. And here's a little simpler way to look at it. How many dimensions can exist? The world, as we know, has 3 dimensions of space, which makes up length, width, and depth. So length, we have the depth and the height. That's like a box. That's our 3-dimensional world. And but there's the mind-bending possibility that many more dimensions exist out there. According to string theory, one of the leading physicists' model of the last half century, the universe operates with 10 dimensions. And we can get into this a little further. But there's this other dimension I didn't mention, it's time. So we have the 3 dimensions, and then we have this box, this 3-dimensional box traveling through time. So that's the 4-dimensional universe that we live in. And if we study this further, we study ourselves and we study every object on Earth. The particles, even though this is solid, the particles have spaces in between them. And nothing's solidly connected. Everything has spaces. A diamond's really solid, but our human bodies, there's little spaces in between everything. We have energy flowing throughout us, and our heart pumps. And that's why I talk about grounding and lots of things on this channel. I have. Now, getting back to the subject here of other dimensions, and this is stuff that Russell didn't know. No one likes the thought of hellfire, but yet I started researching the Bible, and here I just plugged in Hades and all the different scriptures that talk about Hades as a place, as this fire, this lake of fire. And Luke talks about it in the New Testament. And in Hades, being in torment, he lifted his eyes up and saw Abraham. So all the way through, I started reading it, but Hades seems like it's a place, not a condition, a place. And so then I wanted to go further. Is it in the Old Testament? Well, the Old Testament uses the word Sheol, and whatever your hand finds to do it with your might, for there is no work, thought, knowledge, or wisdom in Sheol. to which you're going, the place to which you're going. So it's almost like a place where there's nothing happening. So there's different places. So that's one place, Sheol, and this is in the Old Testament. Then in Psalms, for you will not abandon my soul to Sheol or let your Holy One see corruption. So it's talking about this place. I go down here, and in Luke here, and in Hades, being in torment. So he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham. So that one's kind of a famous one that a lot of the Hellfire people talk about this. And is it figurative? Is it literal? Well, we go a little further, and I punched in hell. Hell comes up mostly in the New Testament, what I found. And it talks about hell as a place. So I get down to the scripture in Matthew, and I thought, I'm going to go there because I want to look at, remember, we're exploring the Bible, and I'm putting a lot of faith in the epistles. That's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Hold the boat till I get on. That's how we used to remember it. But those are the stories about Jesus, and that's what we'll be studying on this channel as we move forward, learning more about Jesus and his life and ministry, and how, from a different angle, outside of the box angle. We already looked at there could be different Jesuses all the way through history, where God has helped all of the nations of earth with Jesus-like figures. And that wouldn't be unreasonable if God is a God of the whole universe, the whole world, loves all people. God's energy of love is within all of us. And if we look at religion all over the earth, one of the primary focuses of every religion is love. Love God and love of mankind. Love is predominant in all of these faiths. Now, there's another interesting thing. In all of these faiths, they talk about a condition. Where do you go afterwards? And the Romans talked about it. The Egyptians talked about it. We talk about it as Christians. Now, Russell kind of changed it a bit. And I'm going to show you guys on another video how Russell's changed the meaning of hell. But here, let's look at what Jesus said about hell. And if we think of hell as a place, we shouldn't be afraid of it. And if we think of the laws of the universe, the laws that Jesus said, what you put out comes back. What you sow, you will reap. In science, they call that like the laws of attraction. Isaac Newton talked about that. So there's laws. So whatever you do, if you go up to an animal like a kitty cat and you hit it, it's going to scratch you. But if you pet it, it's going to purr. Those are the laws. Whatever we put out, we get back. So if we put out love and pet the kitty cat, pet the kitty cat, we get love. It purrs. We like that. It's a frequency. It's an energy that we love, and that's why a lot of people have cats. So now I want to talk about this place that the Bible talks about, and we're going to look at this, the final judgment, and it's right from Matthew. You guys can look there yourselves. The parable of the 10 virgins. Then he talks about the parable of the talents, the final judgment. So I read the whole thing this morning. And the keynote in this whole reading is that Jesus is really telling the disciples to look after those that are within. So really, he's reinforcing the rule command number 5 in the 10 commands, to honor and look after family members is so important. And when I was doing a study on religions in general, not a lot of groups are doing that. It seems like the orphans and widows are being looked after by non-Christian groups, fundraising. And the religions, some of the religions are, I'm not going to say they aren't, but the Jehovah's Witness religion, certainly not. There's no program within the Jehovah's Witness religion to look after the orphans and the widows in a physical manner. And Jesus went on here to say, look after those, your brothers. So even to go one step further. So that would mean the church should have a program, according to what Jesus is teaching, to really look after people within it. And when we look at the Jehovah's Witness religion, it's about printing magazines. The whole religion is about distributing the watchtower. And that's why we talk so much about the watchtower in a negative way. because it's really not what the Bible's teaching. Now, follow along with me. Jesus talks about the ones that don't listen go to another dimension. Think about it as another dimension. Perhaps there's 10 dimensions. And we're in this dimension where we're all being tested. And if we, there's other places. It seems like Sheol, there's places of sleep. So maybe that's, and it says until the judgment time, and they'll be awoken and then they will be judged. So it seems to me that there's lots of dimensions, lots of places. So this is the worst place to me, this final judgment place. It's a scary place, and I can see how religions use this to scare people. I'm not using this to scare you. I'm using this to show you that there could be other dimensions. It's not what we were taught by Russell, that hell doesn't exist. This looks real. Now, here's what it says. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne, and before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will gather and separate people from one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. So you notice there it's the Son of Man, it's Jesus. He's doing the separating, not Jehovah's Witnesses, not the governing body, it's Jesus. And Jesus hasn't come to do this yet. So that's going to happen then. And it goes on in verse 33, and he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on his left. And then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared to you from the foundation of this world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me. So Jesus really showing, emphasizing to look after your brothers, the ones that are within the family, your family, in the congregations, in the churches. You look after them in a physical way. And he went on to emphasize this in verse 41. Jesus went on with the parable. He says, then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. Wow. That's what he's saying. Like, that's a pretty harsh sentence. It's the same place that the devil and the angels are going. For in verse 42, he says, for I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. Naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. So isn't that what has happened? I can speak as an ex-JW. Isn't that what has happened within this religion that we were a part of? We get thrown out. We feel like that. We feel naked. We no longer have any direction. We were in this box of comfort, and now we're thrown out, and we're kind of looking around, and there's all these other things, and it's scary out there. All these other boxes of religion, and it's a big world. So he goes on to say, and then they will also answer, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick in prison? And did we not minister to you? So that's what they say. The governing body said, did we not do all these things? Did we not minister? Did we not print lots of Watchtower and Awakes and lots of books and thousands and millions of pages? And did we not minister to you? See, they keep repeating that one. So the point here is not about that. Ministering takes on a different connotation here. It's really about helping people, ministering, looking after them physically and spiritually. And then he will answer them, saying, truly I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. So Jesus, that means Jesus is in all of us. Jesus feels what you're feeling, what I'm feeling. Jesus feels it. Because that's what Jesus is telling, basically, these church leaders, these governing bodies of churches, religious groups that have all of us sheep under them. And Jesus is saying, if you didn't look after one of these, the least of these, you did it to me. Jesus feels it because of that God energy that it's in us. Jesus feels it. So verse 46, these will go away into eternal punishment. It's a harsh statement, but that's what it says. But the righteous into eternal life. So there's a couple of dimensions. So here we are, verse 46. We're sitting here on planet Earth right now talking, having this discussion. This book here's inspired. I believe it is. I believe all the holy books on earth are inspired. If they're promoting love and they're talking about all basically the same stuff, different languages and so forth. But here we have this message in this holy book telling us that there's different places, that the soul doesn't die. And it's saying right here, we live here. So if we're good, we go to eternal life. It says righteousness. If we're not doing what Jesus is saying here, it's a harsh statement, but he's saying these will go away to eternal punishment. That's like a dimension where it's not a nice place to be, like zombies. I don't know. I don't want to imagine that. But I don't talk about this much on this channel, and it is in the Bible. This Gehenna, this Hades, hell, this place, Sheol. Is it in our mind? Is it just figurative? That's what Russell tried to preach. He wanted to be different than the mainstream religions of that time. And of course, he gathered a following just off this one concept. And of course, people at that time, 25% of the people didn't read. So they believe you get a powerful speaker that gets up and throws a few scriptures out. God is love. Yeah, God is love. So you throw that out and you can kind of combat this other stuff. But God is also a God of justice. And God has made laws without God even doing anything. I think these laws exist. We will get placed, or we will go wherever we're based on laws. So if we're promoting love, we generate an energy of love. If we're promoting judgments upon others, then we're in a bad position, because that's really Jesus' position. That's what this parable is about. Jesus judging, not us. But it's an example for us to think about. And if we're not doing good things, if we're hitting the cat is going to scratch us, and that's not a good place to be. But if the cat's purring on our lap, that's a good place to be. So to wrap this up, I believe it's important that we stick our head outside of the box. We look around, we realize that all of these religions on earth are trying to do good stuff, and that God is a way bigger than all of this. And God loves every single person on earth, including you and I. So all we have to do is reach in and get the cat purring and stick our head outside of the box a bit and look around. But until next time, friends, keep living your life with love. Keep petting the kitty. Bye for now.